Reactive Training Systems.
So, and let me take all the years of training, all the years of experience. And I need you to condense it down, to a few sentences here and there and give it to me. I need that, and it's just, unfortunately I'm coming to find it's not that easy. I feel like these short roads that I thought I was going to be taking, they ended up being the longer roads. I mean, obviously I'm learning along the way, but.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of the interesting part about it, I think. It is a longer road. It is a lot of stuff to learn, and it does take years to learn it.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's cool. If it was a simple thing, like it's deceptive in a lot of ways because it's simple in concept,
Right.
Lift this weight, it's like golf. You hit the ball, put it in the hole, But if you pay a little bit more attention underneath that,
there's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more in between. I don't know. I have one of the people that I'm coaching right now. It's so much easier. Like, hey, you know what? This is your time. Check in, send your stuff, send it back. We'll get some feedback. Easy. But because she lives so close and she's got she has a lot of potential. She wants it. What she likes for me to be there, like when she's like, around the 85 plus percent. I'm like, all right, yeah, I can be there. I mean, you're only like 15 minutes up the way. So we're there yesterday, and a guy's asking me, well, when 3 months ago she was squatting this way and she was pulling this way, she was benching this way. I don't understand why everything's changing and the numbers are going up. We've been working technique a lot, and I don't understand, like how can technique just be that important? How can it increase that much? Man, it's hard to explain, sir. I couldn't, he's an old gentleman, so I just couldn't, really? Sir, honestly, I couldn't really tell you. It's one of those things where it's just, I can show you, and so, and I just gave him a simple deadlift, and he was deadlifting. I mean, and I'm assuming the guy's, in his mid to late 60s, and he's still, still at it. So I was like, well, let me see your deadlift. And so we worked his deadlift a little bit, and it was just, he was just jerking it off the ground pretty much. I was like, oh, well, I mean, and he's working his way up to 405. I'm like, he's plenty strong, even, it doesn't really matter for his age. He's plenty strong. I'm like, well, let's widen the stance out a little bit here. Let's actually put the, let's actually use the knurling a little bit, for your grip. I was like, and it's not, and nothing crazy, absolutely nothing crazy. Let's say instead of just jerking this thing off the ground, let's actually focus on just, let's get a good grip. Let's stand up. Little things here and there, he really didn't breathe or anything. It was just, he was just bro lifting and just going.
Yeah.
He's made it feel completely different. I was like, that's what we've been working on. I mean, and he's like kind of like I guess the granddad of the gym. He knows everybody goes in and everybody leaves, and so when we kind of talked a little bit. I'm like, yeah, man, with her, it's just she's got strength. We just had to work technique. And I said, and honestly, with you, it's the same thing. I mean, you have a lot of strength, obviously. We just got to work technique. I was like, in a lot of times you're going to be able to add a lot more to what you're doing already, just based off of being able to pull it more efficiently. Simple things like ASIC and honesty. Everything that I'm telling you, you can honestly look online and find this stuff. I was like, it's not a secret. Right. You kind of find what works for you, but you kind of stay within that realm of your technique. And he kind of went from one of those like to like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying, and I was like, honestly, the stuff that you and I just went, it took me 5 years to figure that part out. I was like, I just now started implementing technique, and he just kind of laughed. But I'm like, I'm not joking. For some, it's a quick road, and for others, it's a long road. I mean, I just figured, strength is all I need. Strength almost broke my back just relying on it's just strength. So yeah. I don't know.
No, it's cool, and so I mean, I guess that kind of prompts a question because I don't know a whole lot about how you got into this in the beginning. So I mean, it took you 5 years to kind of figure out some of the more nuances, kind of what happened in the interim,
Honestly, like I was, I mean, I played football, ran track, baseball guy. I played every sport known to man in high school. And then when I worked my way into, I ended up, going to college on a, football and track scholarship. And, so that's actually where I was more introduced to, because before in high school, I kind of avoided the weight room. I just didn't play. I'm talking from, I guess that I was able to actually lift weights and, until honestly my first couple years of college, I just avoided the weight room. I was like, I'm faster than everybody, I'm good. I'm stronger than everybody, I'm good. That way, we had a powerlifting meet in high school we had a track meet at the same time as a powerlifting meet. One of the guys got sick, and I ended up, I don't know how, but I ended up, kind of getting subbed in, because I was a strong guy. I think I was a 181 kid. And so, I was pretty sure I was going to win the track meet, and it's like, yeah, I'll try it out. Went in there, and I didn't have no equipment. I had a, pair of shoes, some shorts, and a shirt, and everyone else, in Texas, I think they're required almost now to lift equip. And went in and I won, and it qualified me for state, went to state, and I won. And I was like, that's fun, but I would want to do that again. And it happened 2 years in a row, almost the same scenario. Powerlifting experience all through high school, and just never really, I avoided the gym. I just avoided it.
See,
I got to college, and
strange to me, because so many guys that are at your level, it's like once they got bit by it, man, it was just all at once, But so it's a little more of a slow burn with you, huh?
Oh, it was so slow. I didn't honestly get into this like full fledged. I was like 30, yeah, 32 when
That's awesome.
And they it was one of those things where they made me go. It wasn't a hey man, you should join this. I was at the time when I moved to San Marcos, I just turned 30, and I was I was like, well, I'm 30, man, I better get on it. I better get stronger. I better, get cut. I don't want to look like these other 30-year-olds I see walking around. And so I just went to the gym to work out pretty much. And I wasn't really doing anything else. I was just working every day. So I noticed my numbers were, they just kind of started growing. It really was one of those things where it wasn't necessarily I'm stronger than everybody. It was like, oh, well, feel easy. Let me try 3 plates. Oh, these 3 plates feel easy. Let me try 4 plates. And around, I guess it was the second year, going in, working out at the same gym that I was at. The guys were like, you realize that you're, that you're lifting just as much as anybody we've ever seen lift. Like, oh, that's awesome, man. Well, you guys have fun, and because all I knew of powerlifting was, I knew of it, but Raw wasn't as big. Just 4 years ago, Raw wasn't really as big. And all I had ever known was seeing people lifting in gear. And I tried to put on a shirt in high school, and that thing hurt so bad. I'm like, I'm never gonna do that again. So I was like, well, I don't really want to put on any of that stuff, man. And that was actually the first year that following year was the first year they actually had that I guess the Raw Worlds or whatever in Sweden. And Sean Frasquillo, that was he came back, goes, man, there's a guy that would be in your weight class, you could beat him. Just like you squat, the same thing he squats, he just deadlifts a lot. And that was Christoph. And it's like you could beat him because you guys squat the same, you bench more than he does, he just deadlifts a lot. Okay, well, that'll be cool. And so I was like, well, how, I'm not really, interested in doing it, but I appreciate you telling me. And so all the big guys at the gym at the time, like, hey man, come on, we're going to talk to you for a minute. So they took me to the dressing room, like, hey, you need to do this meet coming up next year. And he's like, it's at the end of December. Just come do the meet. If you don't like it, you don't have to worry about it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. He goes, well, tomorrow we're going to work on your technique and everything. I'm like, oh, well, don't worry about it. My technique's fine. And I could barely move. I could barely squat 430. I remember, like, I tried 430. I couldn't even hit depth. Like a 365, barely at depth. I had just no technique. Bench, they pause, and I'm thinking, oh, I can do 450, no problem. I could barely get 335. It was, man,
It probably came back quick though, right?
Oh yeah, it came back super quick. I did my first meet, absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with the people. Yeah. Everyone was so nice. I didn't know what I was doing. I went to Sports Authority and bought these little dinky knee sleeves, and he's actually he was a 198 guy. He bombed out. Use mine. You know, we're about the same size. Use mine, so he let me use his knee sleeves. Felt completely different. You know, and I was at the time I was just wearing some slip-on. I wore some checkered slip-on Vans, and I did the whole meet: bench, squat, deadlift, same these checkered slip-on Vans, and you know, I like the day before, you know, and you know, I just liked it. You know, I like lifting weight. My cousin, who, you know, he's a multi-time world champion, you know, power lifter. You know, he'd always try to get me into it. I'm like, nah, because I don't really want to do that. He came to the meet. You know, he was at University of Texas, and he's a University of Texas alum. He played ball there, and he was a powerlifter for them. He off and introduced me to, you know, the team and everything there. And yeah, if you need anything, let us know. And so I would reach out to those guys. And that was the, you know, first time I met Ian Bell.
Oh, that's cool.
I was getting ready to deadlift, and he was actually judging my platform. And I went to put my first one, you know, sumo and everything, and put it down. And he's like, hey, if you know, bring your hands out a little bit, you know, actually grab the knurling, you know, stand up with it. I didn't know, Mike, I didn't even know what knurling was, man. So I was like, what? He goes,
no, I mean, that's cool. Everybody's got to start off learning that stuff, you know, and
you know,
for a lot of us, I know for me personally, it's like, man, I've been doing this for a while, and it's easy to forget what it's like to not know that stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You know, you touched on something, got me. And it's kind of a question I had for you as well. So you've tried equipped benching in the past, right?
No, I've never even. They tried to get me to a shirt, and I couldn't really get into it. And so it was a katana, I believe. And so we had a guy who was a super heavy. So, well, you know, just try this one on. And so obviously it was way too big for me, but I could get it on. And he goes, hey, let's try to put some weight on. All right. So mind you, this is, you know, years after, you know, against it in high school. I was like, yeah, you know, well, how much I need to put on it? Well, you know, we'll put on 405. Oh, I can handle 405 by myself. So yeah, let's do that. So we have they put the shirt on, and I lay down. They give it to me, and he goes, so try to touch your chest. Couldn't get it halfway. He goes, oh well, let's put let's put 450 on. So they put 450 on. I got it like about 3/4 of the way. He goes, oh, we'll probably have to put like 500. You know, try to put 500 on. Same, it didn't touch your chest. We'll have to go around 600 to see if we can touch your chest with it. I'm the guy. He held on to it just to, you know, for me to feel what it feels like to have it on. And he's all right, just, you know, try to press. So I tried to press and got it up and got it off of me, and took the shirt off, and I just saw the bruises. Like, nah, man, this isn't for me. That's as close as I've ever come to, you know, any type of a equipped bench. Like, I just,
okay.
You know, I tried.
It's always a question in my mind though, because I mean, you're such a good bencher, and I don't know. It's just a curiosity, because we're seeing more people that are getting a little bit more interested in equipped stuff, but not everybody. So I was just kind of curious.
I thought about it, man. I thought about it, you know, just to see what it was like, maybe doing like a little regional, just maybe doing a bench only. I've had my knees wrapped before, you know. Actually, they taught me how to wrap knees in high school, just, you know, because we had so many people. I like, you know, I've done that, you know, a couple times, you know, just in training, you know, when my legs felt shot. I'm like, yeah, you know what, I'll try to wrap, you know, so I try to wrap myself, and wrap comes undone. I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm not meant for it, but you know, I've often thought about it. Is it Zach Cooper, I believe? I think. He's like, man, have you ever thought about lifting equip? Like, nah, never. Nah, well, you know, when Dave's done, who's gonna be the 93 that does? Like, I said, well, doesn't Adam? I said, isn't Adam the man? You know, I'm pretty sure Adam Amola, right? Is that his name?
I'm not sure. I've kind of lost touch with the equip side of the sport.
I was like, man, so I don't, man, I've only thought about it. You know, they might get like maybe a 10-second, 10-second thought, and I'm like, no, I don't know. I mean, it's just I'm liking where I'm at with Raw, and and I'm at that point now where I'm finally starting to implement a lot more technique, than anything, man, and it's helping tremendously. So and with technique, it's like you still have to try to find what works for you, because as the weight gets heavier, it feels like I feel like my technique changes as the weight gets heavier, and I'm trying to be more consistent with all that. So
I agree with that.
Being able,
do you have anything specific that comes to mind? Like, how does it change?
Well, I can use I guess squat, for example. Squat seems to be one of those things where it's, as weight seems to get heavier, I almost feel like I start more of I feel like my shoulders start leaning more toward more toward the front, rather than settling into it. I mean, descending is no problem. I mean, I honestly feel like I have more control the heavier the weight gets. I feel like I actually descend with a lot more control. It's just as I come up, I don't necessarily feel the weight per se, but I feel the pressure. Honestly, with me, I tell you, after 630, 645, I mean, I haven't really been a 700 plus squatter, so I don't really know that feeling. But from 670 to 635, 640, it all feels the same to me. It just feels heavy. I just feel weight. But as I tend to stand up, I notice, and Ryan Doris pointed it out to me, while I was watching me prior to Nationals. I was wondering, like, why does it start feeling like I'm just, as I start standing up, it feels like it's forcing me farther forward. Well, as I go to stand up, I start gripping the bar more.
Okay.
Rather than brace. I mean, I've been working. Honestly, I've been working bracing for about 5 months now, because I didn't do that before. Yeah, so smart. So I've been working bracing a lot more, and as I'll keep my brace, but as I descend, I tend to relax. I relax in my arms, and then as I stand up, I start re-gripping the bar, and the forward rotation of the bar almost up my neck. I mean, as subtle as it might be, I feel like that's forcing me down, because my line of sight, it stays up. And I try to keep a neutral head position, but it seems like it kind of forces me forward. So that's been, as far as my squat, that has been that tends to break down in terms of technique.
Sure.
I've obviously been trying to work on really forcing more pressure against the belt. I mean, I'm trying to learn how to use the belt the right way, because honestly, I was just, you can get it, and it seemed like it hurt more than it helped. So.
All right. Well,
I don't know.
That's kind of cool, and it's kind of cool to see. I don't know. I guess to see that's where your focus is in your own training right now. On stuff like that, and you're still competing at such a high level. It's kind of a thing that I breezed over in the beginning. We probably should have done a little bit more of an intro, but like, what are some of your best lifts or proudest accomplishments, or what is a little bit of like what you've done in powerlifting so far?
Probably I could go with my proudest accomplishments. And they've never been wins. I don't know that any win that I've ever had, I've been. I've always been excited about my wins. I mean, you feel blessed and fortunate that you get the wins, but the ones I'm most, I feel most accomplished, most proud of is, there's probably 3. 2013 against David Ricks. That's our first time meeting the guy. I studied him and just been in awe of the man. And, any man that's willing to introduce himself and 20 minutes later give you tips on technique prior to the meet, you're going to compete against him. And I became his #1 fan right then and there. No joke. I will not lie to you. And meeting him and just, being able to compete, compete with him was, and I can't even say really against him, because it was one of those things where, we were going back and forth during that meet, but it honestly felt like the most friendly competition that I'd ever been a part of. I was yelling for him, he was yelling for me. you know. And I was just in awe of, like, I mean, the man his age moving as much weight as he was, and he was just as humble as he could be, and just such a grounded person. He gave me a gym that I follow to this day, and it's always in the back of my head. And it was simple. He sat me down and looked me dead in my face. He's like, when you're, when you're competing and when you're training, the key is you never stop your pursuit of excellence. Super simple. I mean, it wasn't like some huge, changing it, but it never, I mean, it's been the truest thing. And I've never, I mean, he said that to me, and I've never stopped from that point. I mean, it could be excellence of that day, excellence of that set, excellence of that, of those particular reps, but I try to make each rep better than the last, and if it's a good rep, I try to make it identical. I mean, whatever excellence is for me for that particular moment, I go for it. I mean, and I honestly, David Ricks, he was of all the coaches and all the, tips that I've ever been given, man, that was the one that sunk in with me. Maybe just I was a little bit more mature then than I was, back in the day. But
yeah, I mean,
that
that's
really
value, right? Like that's not just a principle of lifting. Like that's something to it's bigger than that,
Yeah. So that was, going against him, and that was my first time actually putting 700 on the bar and trying to pull it. Prior to that, the most I'd ever known was 660, and I had to pull 700 for the win, and top. Hey, and 3 years later, same thing happens. But yeah, so that was that year, and that was honestly, for me, I felt so accomplished, that, I mean, one, I just didn't want to get blown out of the water, and two, to gain the respect of a man that, that you idolized is like, ow, wow, so.
Well, how has that worked? So over the years, you've been a top 93 kilo lifter, but we've seen people come out of the woodwork, come out of retirement, just all kinds of stuff. And it makes that weight class in particular really, really competitive. Like just when you think it's looking like things might get a little easier, somebody shows up,
Oh yeah.
So how do you deal with that mentally? Because you're like the most positive powerlifter that I know.
I think for me, I mean, I can rewind it back to just, being a competitive sports my whole life, being a competitor my whole life, no matter living with a sister who, she's as big of a competitor as I am. I mean, to the point that we used to, sit at the table and see who could drink their Kool-Aid, who would be the last to drink their Kool-Aid, who would be the last to eat their food. I've always been very patient, number one. I probably have to, give my sister a shout out for that, because she's pretty much helped me develop that patience, because it was just kind of like, if I don't win this, she's gonna kill me, one of those times. So I've always been competitive, and you know how it is in any type of competitive sport. There's always somebody out there that's better. Any type of organized sports, and you happen to play in any type of league that has any form of parity. Next week, your team's gonna get slaughtered by somebody that's better, or somebody that just has one better play. So I always keep that in the back of my head. There's always, I'm a firm believer there's always somebody out there that's better. There's always somebody out there that's going to be stronger. There's always going to be somebody out there that their day, they had the best day of their life, the day that you had the worst. So, I mean, you can't necessarily control, or you can't control their actions. You can only control your actions and your reaction to the situation. What I know for a fact is that I can work as hard as I can work every single time. If the best me shows up, and I'm fairly confident every single time, that, when I step up to a bar, that if the best me shows up, for each one of those attempts, the weight's going to move.
Yeah.
If I put it all together, the best me is going to win every single time. I feel like, the best version of myself has yet to really hit the platform. I've come close literally 2 times up to this point. The best me in terms of my bench version, it shows up more than anything, which I'm super grateful for. But I'm ready for my best version of my deadlift definitely to show up and my squat to show up. I always keep in the back of my head, if I ever have my best day. So it's easy to say positive when you know, one, that you leave weight out on the platform, two, that you know that your best performance is yet to come, and three, you know what, I was going to be somebody better, but one day I'm going to be that somebody that's better.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a balance, right? Like,
yeah.
So you seem like you're pretty internally focused on it as well.
Yeah.
Like, let's focus on the things that I can control.
Yeah.
You know, I have some people that I work with that get really focused on the competitive aspect, beating this person or something like that. And I mean, it's a hard thing because I don't think it's totally clear cut, because they're pretty convinced that, you know, that their way is right. And if it was super obvious, like, you know, the world is round or something like that, then there would be no disagreement, right? So you know, so I mean, to some extent, like, that external focus does provide some sort of fuel, but I mean, I'm with you. Like, you've got to. I think it's short-lived, you know. And I mean, I've told the story before about how I kind of got a little burned out and stuff because I was so externally focused that it ended up causing me to make some bad training decisions,
right?
You know? Because you know, it's a sport where you have to, like you're saying, you have to be the best version of yourself.
You have to be the best version of yourself.
And if you get focused on trying to beat the other person, then you're not focused on being the best version of yourself that you can be. You know, I mean, I think it's cool for that, like, that competitive dynamic to function in the background, but when that takes center stage, I mean, you can hang on to it for a while, you know, but sooner or later mistakes add up, you know. And unless you're just super dominant, you know, there are a few people out there that are just super dominant. And for those people, it maybe doesn't matter. But for everybody else, we need all we can get, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even then, I mean, you can be a super dominant person, you know, until you're not.
Yeah.
And that's just it. I mean, everyone, you know that, you know, 15, 20 regional meets, you know, across the country, and be the most dominant lifter at each one of those things until it comes time for nationals or until it comes time for worlds. Then you realize, like, oh, okay, I am not the alpha here, you know, but, you know, and that's going to completely, you know, just, you know, screw your brain because you're so used to being the winner every single time. So when you start focusing on, like you said, when you start focusing on other people and what other people's execution is, you don't do it in life. You don't try to keep up with the Joneses in life. Why would you try to do that in training? It's not reality. You know, I can't, you know, go around looking at, you know, at what a competitor does, or, you know, even the lesser competitors, like thinking, all right, I've got him beat. I just got to chase that guy. I don't really see any. It's not, to me, it's not very logical. I mean,
it works for a while, you know. When it stops working, it stops working.
And when it stops working, it seems like it caves in on
it. Does.
You know,
it does.
And you can't count money in another man's wallet. You know, my granddad used to say, and it's the truth. You have to focus on yourself, and the more, you know, the more one, you know, I will say this: you have to be realistic with yourself. Be realistic with your goals. Be realistic with, you know, the gains that you're trying to make. Number one, and if that you know, if that increase, if that progression that you make is, you know, comparable, you know, and is at a, you know, a competitive level with your competition, then awesome. If it's not, world, and so many people get caught up in what they can and what they can't do, and what they are and what they're not doing in comparison to everyone else. Well, there's a reason why these guys are top 2, top 3 every single time. Some of them genetically dominant. Some of them have amazing coaching. Some of them is experience. More so, they're probably not worrying about you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like it's you know, I've never known any great athlete, anyone that worries about everyone else. You can look through you can look through history. But you know what I mean. These are things that I have to tell myself.
Yeah.
And you can always tell those those people that have been successful over the years, like focus on anybody else right now. He's just he's trying to get the job done, and the people that that tend to lose are the ones that make the mistakes. And it's not that they're making mistakes in terms of selection. They're making mistakes by looking at what that guy's doing.
Yeah,
and
I mean, people...
I've been that person. I've been that person more times than I care to admit. And I guess you hit that point where you're like, I need to quit worrying about them and worry about myself. And the more you start focusing on yourself and realizing, you know what, I may not actually be that far behind as I thought that I was, but I'm actually enjoying it a lot more now that my focus is not A, B, and C. My focus is just me, and it's, man, when I started focusing on other people, I started having so much more fun with this, And I mean, the numbers, they grow when they grow. If they grow, if they don't, then they don't. But I mean, I just started focusing on having better technique, and my thing is like everybody that I tend to idolize, the people that I tend to emulate, the people that I tend to gravitate towards in terms of just being, good people and good lifters, man. They're always great people first, they're good lifters second, and best technique you'll ever see third, I mean, and obviously you're on that very short list. And for those people that I tend to, really, kind of, I write names on my mirror, like, today we're going to focus on our technique to, be similar to, person A. We're going to focus on our breathing patterns to be like, and, I don't necessarily have to, be a copycat, but, sometimes I take my cues from the people that I see, like, what, I'm going to try to focus on, like, honestly, I can say this, I mean, because you're here, I mean, but I've said it a million times to people, when Ben will tell me, I want you to focus on, on your breathing. I want you to focus on trying to suck all the air out of the room. I think of you every single time. I'm like, man, inhale, all the air leaves the room. I'm like, there's a drop in air pressure. I told Ryan Creeler this when you're getting ready to squat. It's like, first of all, he's going high bar. Second of all the air pressure is going to drop in the room. Watch this. And it was cool, man. Like, I always, in the back of my head, I always kind of keep that up. I mean, I see physically, I see the inhalation happening, and I see the the locking in of the oxygen. I see the bracing happening, and so I can see physically do it. Like, I need to do that. I need to focus on that. Again, for me, I'm not very good at the whole bracing, the whole inhaling and actually sucking the air out of the room. So I mean, I have to have those physical cues. That, like, I mean, for me, I'm such a visual learner,
right? Because that's a way that speaks to the way a lot of people learn stuff too.
Yeah,
because it's about creating a feeling. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine about some, like you mentioned, I'm working on high bar stuff, and high bar is still relatively new to me. So I'm still kind of fleshing out some cues and stuff like that. And there was some discussion on whether, like, about one of the cues I was using, but to me, it's about creating a certain feeling during the lift. And so if you have a cue that results in that feeling, then that's what it is. Now, for me, I'm, words seem to work pretty well, but for other people, a lot of people, like, having a visual picture, I mean, that's way better, and I know lots of top lifters who do that, watch videos and stuff like that. And I mean, really, that, if you think about it, like, that's visualization practice, even if it's not like you sit down in a quiet room and turn on. It doesn't have to be all that. Just watching a video with the intent of learning something from what you're watching is
very true. Yeah.
No, cool, man.
It's just a lot of fun, and when you get down to I mean the bare bones of it all is what can you do to make yourself better?
Yeah.
If it can be it could be words, it could be visual, but what cues can one find to make himself better? And kind of going back to your question, I guess with the 93 class being so competitive and, people, kind of going in and out, to make myself better. And I mean, it's awesome seeing, you have legends like David Ricks that show you that you can get better no matter what. I mean, while he's an exception to the age rule on so many levels, that you can get stronger, you can get better, and I mean, even his technique, I've seen it has, he's tweaked and changed his technique, quite a bit, So, I mean, I know there's always room for improvement, and again, a thing that it's been told to me by so many of masters lifters and lifters that have been doing it for a while. This is such a marathon, and it's not a sprint. And I told the guy yesterday, actually, when we were at the gym, I was like, man, I've seen, in my going on 5 years of doing this, I've seen so many skeletons on the side of the road, as we're going down this, this marathon, that I just try not to make the mistakes that other people made. And, and I try to, as much information as I try to seek from other people, I'm more than willing to try to give out. Not that it's all the best information, but I wouldn't be here if, if I had, send a message, hey, Mike, I need help with this. What do you think about this? Or, hey, Matt, Gary, could you help me with this? I don't really know what I'm doing with this. Or, I got super lucky that, Ben kind of took me under, because there was so much stuff that, 3.5 years that I didn't even think about doing that, he, literally explained to me in a paragraph. I'm like, oh, wow. Wow. I had no idea. So it's been, I can honestly say I've been very fortunate, very blessed in that sense that, when you see these people coming in and out, and when you see people, with these amazing numbers and doing all that, I look back to where I was and where I am right now. I'm like, oh, I'll get there. And at the same time, I have, resources. I mean, I have the best in the game around, around the, the powerlifting world. I mean, at the, at the tip of my finger. So it's kind of, I don't really fear it as much as I almost embrace them. Like, I would want at this point for our sport to keep growing, grow if the same people say, it's awesome. It's awesome to be at the top, but I know one day, my number's going to be called and like, hey man, I'm just hoping for a top 10 spot, and I look forward to that. There's a lot of, there's a lot of guys that are coming up that have a lot of strength and have a lot of potential. If they can avoid the injury bug, that they'll do very, very well. Yeah. Again, my thing, kind of, I think we talked about it back in Finland, is if I can get through one meet, 90%, I would be the happiest man on earth. But when you're competing, as out of respect for your competitors, out of respect for the sport, the last thing you do is make an excuse like, oh, I was hurt. Right. You know what I mean? And again, I can you as one of a prime example. Like we've all known for quite some time that you were competing hurt, and not like a little hurt, but like legitimately hurt, and you were still doing well, but you never made an excuse. Well, and again, people can take from that.
I could hold to all that.
Yeah, but
sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, no, every now and again you gotta let them know.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying, and I think that's a really valuable mentality to have. I'm not sure that, I don't know. I mean, it would just be interesting, right? So if you're a young person listening to this, do you hear this and kind of adopt that mentality, or do you think, nah, man, is it something that only happens with a little time? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I did think of two more questions I want to ask you, and I don't want to run out of time too much. The first one is specifically with your bench, because you're such an amazing bencher. Mm-hmm. What's the most effective training you've ever done for your bench?
And that's a hard one, just because I mean, under the tutelage of the mad scientist Ben Escrow, we have done so many different things. I think for me, the most effective up to this point, the most effective training we've done really has been, working our way up to, say like a 92%, I think at the most we probably worked up like to a 95%, but it's hard to really gauge it because, he always, gives me guff about it. He goes, I just don't know what I don't know what your 100% is. I never know what it is because it changes. So I'm like, all right, well, cool. Hopefully it stays that way. Hopefully it just keeps going up. But so we'll work around what we presume is anywhere from 92 to 95%. Get, and make sure that we get like some, singles, at least a couple of those bad boys being paused, and then doing some drop sets, to 90%, and just
hold up. So when you said work up to, something 92, 95% singles, like you talking about working up to that over the course of a cycle, or are you talking about it in a training session?
Cycle wise, yeah, so in the training session, when just because of the bench and because of how USAPL scheduling is, usually bench nationals and raw nationals are within a month or two of each other over the last couple of years. So if it's not that, then it's an NAPF bench meet. So usually I'll have 2 and 3 meets over the span of a 3-month period, which which whatever way you want to look at it, it could be asinine or it could be genius. I don't know. But with Ben, it's he'll ask me how we kind of want to approach it, but at the end of the day, it's making sure that you get enough recovery time in between everything, and working up to a decent peak to where you're not burning yourself out, because you're pretty much going to have to bench at a high level 3 times in a row, 3 months in a row, with minimal rest time. So what seemed to work is almost working our way up to a nice little peak, and just almost dropping completely down and letting the body heal, and then almost having a mini peak, if that makes any sense, and then kind of leveling it off, and almost just do a good job about programming to the point where he keeps up to my presumed 100% that first month, and we almost rest come time for raw nationals during that, because it's usually in between, and then after raw nationals he does a really good job about making sure that it's just about the strength retention, so I can actually have an opportunity to recover while still maintaining strength. So what seemed to kind of help for me is just almost redlining it. He'll almost redline me, and then give me some decent drop sets over the course of 2 or 3 different training sessions in a week, and as we level off, and get some rest period, get a rest period in between, we kind of ramp it back up slightly, and then just almost cruise control into an NAPF meet. And I feel like,
sorry I interrupted you there, but
no, go ahead.
When you say work up to like a red line, what does that feel like to you?
It feels like death. It doesn't necessarily hurt as it does. It's just, I mean, well, how it is, that it's just it's almost hit the wall. So I don't necessarily think about the strength as I do the technique. I really try to focus on the technique. Now, of course, I don't have much in the march. I don't, and I have a little bit of a lag in my left, so it's really just technically focused. And so whatever assist lifts that we need to do to kind of sub, sometimes, like there'll be times that I'll be tanked, and whether it be just an insane amount of volume, or it's just the intensity is just at a point where I'm like, man, I am barely getting this up. This is an RPE of like 11.8. I mean, I'm past the point of I'm past the point. It's just a prayer and will that's getting the stuff up. When we get to that point,
so you're seeing like strength fluctuations, not necessarily pain, which is good, but like just mentally being tired or something like that. You're feeling that fatigue.
Yeah, that fatigue. I mean, you heard it. That fatigue. You know, a lot of times it hits you. It almost, I like to think of it as more as a 60-40 split. It hits you about 60% physical, but 40% mental.
Yeah.
And feeling those aches and pains, then that's when the doubt starts, you know, it kind of creeps in like, hey, can I get this weight? Can I get this weight? And usually with me, I'm the world's greatest. I like to claim, I need to make a shirt that says I'm the world's greatest second rep. I am the world's greatest. I am the world's greatest second repper. My first rep is always borderline tragic. My second rep is just it's I always think of it as the most textbook rep ever known to man. You can look at any squat that I've ever had. You can look at any bench that I've ever done. Certainly my deadlifts. My first rep is the sumo stiff leg deadlift that you'll ever see. I do a good morning with my first squat. My bench is it does one of these, and then all of a sudden second rep it all evens out. So I mean it's turbulence all the way through. It's smooth sailing once we get to that second rep. But usually, you know, I mean, I know how my first rep is going to be. So I always like, man, I hope that if I can get this first rep done, I'll be good to go. You know, again, when you're just in so much soreness and, you know, slight discomfort, you know, and when everything aches from head to toe, still have more sets to go. It's like, oh man, you know, why am I doing this? And the second rep usually kind of gives me an indicator really where I'm sitting at. I just hope and pray that, that if I have enough in the tank to do, you know, a 92, 93%, you know, for a double, you know, again, as a programmer, I'm not at that level yet where I can just see that in the lifter. I honestly, I don't see how you guys do it. It's one of those things where I don't have enough experience yet to really gauge that in a lifter. You know, I can barely gauge it in myself sometimes. But I mean, you know, but the way the numbers are laid out and the way the plan is laid out, he'll tell me ahead of time, and I feel like he almost wills it to happen. You know, but as soon as those numbers happen, you know, and as soon as I see him, like, all right, well, this is what you've been given, and let's get it going. But for me, that's been the most effective bench wise. It's just, you know, being able to almost redline it, back it off, and, you know, get a proper amount of recovery time, and then, you know, a slight ramp up, and then, you know, kind of, you know, letting it taper down a little bit. I mean, usually just based off of the way that my meets have been scheduled.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and of course, I think more so than anything is I'm not a prideful lifter. There's no pride in my training. There's no pride in the way that I lift. I'm not very prideful when it comes to competition. Like, I don't let my pride get in the way of my execution. I don't let my ego get in the way of my execution. And it seems like, you know, sometimes people. I know me, I do it a lot. I mean, I'm a proud man, but sometimes my pride ends up clouding my judgment.
You're right. Yeah.
So much so, you know, so I just try to, you know, it comes in my communication back and forth with, you know, with programming and everything. I try to make sure that I don't let my pride and my ego get in the way of everything. And I feel like for me personally, the way my personality is built, my pride and ego, they're almost hand in hand. There's no separation of the two when it comes to moving massive amounts of weight. So I just try to communicate with my coach as much as possible, and be realistic with myself, and realize that, hey, I'm not a old. I'm not gonna mend like a 23-year-old mends.
Right.
You know, so if I need to take a nap, then I'm gonna pull the old man card and I'm gonna take a nap. If I need to, take off a set, then I'm gonna take off a set. But, you know, that's what seemed to have been, you know, have worked up to this point, you know, and I mean, it definitely, you know, kind of worked. It definitely worked. I should say, when I went to Costa Rica, because I didn't think I was going to be trying 513 at all. And
yeah,
Bill's like, you got it. I mean, 485, I'll put it, 485 has never moved that fast ever. And, you know, you want to try the world record. And, you know, it was kind of funny because, like, apparently everyone else knew I was doing it. I didn't. And so, you know, I go to the back and, you know, everyone was like, hey, let's go. It's time, 513, let's go for it. I'm like, let's go for it. And when I unracked it, I was like, oh, wow, I can actually do this. I can actually do this. And my right locked out. Yeah, but my left, apparently that left side erector is like, nah, you're done for the day. You know, like that cramp pretty much limited what I was gonna do. But you know, my at the time prior to going there, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do the Arnold. I don't think I'm gonna bench. I'm gonna take time off until I'll find a summer regional to go to and just, you know, and after that, I was like, well, I guess maybe if I take a couple weeks off, and a couple weeks to turn like to like 4 weeks, I took a legitimate 4 weeks off and just started back this week, and I feel like a brand new person. I'm sore, but I feel like a brand new person. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, man. Hey, I've got one more question for you. I want to just sneak in before the end here.
Okay.
What's your favorite burger?
Oh man, you would hit me with that.
I mean, this is probably the most important question of the day, you know.
This is, as soon as you said that, I just went. I went from coast to coast. I mean, I make a I make a pretty mean burger. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I can't use my own. That's like saying your own brand is the best.
Hey, do it. This is like a secret, not so secret, not so subtle recipe hunting, I guess.
Oh man. I actually, you know, one of my buddies, he's actually gonna be coming up from Austin to actually try it. I make a lean beef turkey burger.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, I don't even know if you're supposed to do that, but I'll take that I'll take lean beef and I'll mix it with turkey and, you know, make a patty with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll double meat it. I don't know. It depends on how I feel.
Right.
It's like lean beef and turkey, and put that bad boy together, man. And I mean, I'll slow cook it. You know, every now and again, I might throw a little seasoned salt in it. And you know, cheese is optional. Sometimes it gets away with the burger. But it's a lean turkey burger with, and instead of lettuce, I actually fry cabbage. And
really?
I put fried cabbage. Oh man,
that sounds amazing.
It's something special. It's a special occasion burger, you know.
All right.
I do a lot of just different, you know, a lot of different combos. I've done that's probably the favorite that I make. It's a lean beef manwich burger. I like to make I'll take a lean beef patty. I'll put jack, and then I'll put manwich on top of it, and then it's like a sloppy Joe. It's a sloppy Joe lean burger.
All right.
I think, man, I do all kind of
thing. I'm with you on.
Say again?
I said I'm with you on cheese. Like, you don't just slap cheese on a burger, you know.
No, you got to be smart about the cheese.
You can think it through and use different kinds for different things that you're trying to create, you know. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of times people put cheese on a burger and it's just like, just because it's there, just because it's what you do.
Yeah. Well, I learned my lesson with cheese when I worked at McDonald's for a little bit. And when I worked at McDonald's.
Is that where this all started?
I started working at McDonald's because I love burgers. And I thought I was going to get free burgers. This is no joke. I was 15. And I you know, we lived a ways away. So I would ride my bike to McDonald's, you know, every day to work. And I'd get there an hour early so I could eat burgers. And I've just always loved burgers, man. I don't know. I've always loved.
That's top shelf, man. Like, most people are like, I got a job at McDonald's because I needed a paycheck. And you're like, no, man, it's the food. That's what brought me.
Dude, Mike, I still have my first paycheck. It was $9.32. That was my first paycheck from work. Yeah, that was it. I didn't even, like, why even cash it? My best friend, I'm not like, my best friend to this day, funniest story he has on me is when I worked for like 2 weeks and I got a $9.32 check. And I guess it's because I was eating my paycheck, I guess. I don't know. But I remember I gave him that check. I was like, man, look at what they just gave me. And he laughed. And when I say this, he laughed until he was like, tears are coming down his face. And he's like, what are you gonna do with that? Like, you can't even buy a pack of gum with that. Like, it was same things, man. Because I mean, I thought I was gonna have this huge paycheck, a few $100, and it was $9.32. So I still have it at home. No joke. It's right there on the shelf at my mom's house. But yeah, I started working at McDonald's to eat burgers. I'm not lying to you, man. I love them, and you know that's when I learned about cheese and how cheese can either make a burger or break a burger. And you know I just try to make all different combinations of Big Macs and stuff. And you know, as long as you know if you have a cheeseburger, the key is of course you want to have a piece of cheese in every bite. So if you're biting it, it has to have cheese in every bite. At any point, not enough cheese. I mean, there's a ratio, man. People don't understand. Yeah, there has to be. Yeah, if you have a bad burger, man, it's hard for me to be friends with a person that claims that they can make a good burger and it'd be a bad burger. So like, if you know, it's just, again, right there. It'll make or break a friendship with LS McClain. I'll tell you that right now. I will immediately start judging you. So I mean, you know, I'm very judgmental when it comes to food that I like. You know, I mean, and like I said, for me, I mean, you know, cabbage is a very close second, and you know, so obviously that my favorite burger, of course, has my favorite two things, you know, locked into one. But you know, everybody has their thing.
There you go. You know, all right, man. I think I've taken up enough of your time, but I do appreciate you.
No, you're good, bud.
The only last thing I wanted to mention before we wrap things up, for anybody that listens to this that happens to be interested, I've got a seminar coming up later this month in the UK, and then on December 3rd, I believe, we're going to Italy for a seminar, and then Canada will be in late January. We're thinking about having one in New York sometime in the first part of next year. If you're interested in any of those things, let me know. It's pretty easy to get in touch with me on the interwebs. Let me know and I can get you some information on how to get signed up for any of that stuff. It's a lot of fun. We have a good time hanging out, lifting weights, talking about lifting weights, learning some new stuff. LS, thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Very much.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Reactive Training Systems.